Mhm. Welcome back to New Realities. This is a program I've been doing, ongoing series with Doc Wallace, who is an amazing nutritionist, an amazing doctor. He has a whole body of knowledge, which we'll be talking about today, the Wallach Corpus, which is really taken after the Hippocrates corpus. So Hippo, Hippocratic,
Hippocratic Corpus.
the Hippocratic, not the right.
Yeah,
Hippocratic
which included the Hippocratic oath that doctors have to take.
right. So your corpus includes what, Doc?
Okay, I take 50 years of healing people, and I pick some of the top, really top stories that are impossible stories, and that's what the 60 Hippocratic corpuses were. They were 60 stories of diseases that everybody knew was the work of the devil and couldn't be cured, and Hippocrates cured them. And so the same thing is true here, the Wallach corpus, and I can go, I can start whenever you want me to, and go into
please.
some.
No, go ahead. Please start.
Okay. Well, I'm going to make an announcement here. I have a 2 CD set coming out. It'll be out within a week or 10 days from today. And it's some of these stories in much greater detail than we'll be able to do here. Okay, the Wallach corpus. And so you'll be able to get that, through,
we can order the Wallach corpus, right? If we go to
Wellness Publications.
Right, on Vital Health News, call that number.
There you go.
275-7755. And any other product mentions you might hear throughout this show, you could always call this number and find out more details about what Doc has put together as an incredible company. Okay, Doc, yes, so let's talk about the corpus.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to start out with myself. I'm hearing talking in the background there. I want to start out with myself. When I was 4 years old, they didn't have a name for it, but I began to have all these emotional problems and would hurt other people and punch them and trip them and things like that. And it got worse and worse and worse. By the time I was 9 years old, I had been to 28 doctors, usually psychiatrists and things like that. And they're all going to institutionalize me. I'm 9 years old now. And when they told me I was going to get institutionalized, and I asked them what that meant, they said, well, they're going to put you in a hospital for the rest of your life. Okay. And so that didn't sound good to a 9-year-old. So when everybody else went to bed that night, it was kind of a Friday night, and I had been to my 20th doctor. Her name was Mary Jane Skeffington. I'll never forget, little grandmotherly type psychiatrist, pediatric psychiatrist, Mary Jane Skeffington, and in St. Louis. At any rate, I'm sitting on the end of my bed and I'm thinking, okay, what's going on here? Why am I having this problem? Why am I going to get put, in a hospital for the rest of my life? And so I said, okay, let me look at this. And I began to look at what we were eating. We lived on a little farm, and I began to look at what we were eating. And I noticed that we were feeding the same things out of our garden that we were eating to our animals. Okay, the ones that were up around the house inside the fence, not the ones out in the pasture, but the ones that were in, the milk cows and stuff like that. We're feeding them a lot of the same things we're eating. And I said, well, how come I'm getting the problem and they're not getting the problem? And then I realized, oh, we're not only giving them vegetables out of the garden, but we're giving them vitamins and mineral capsules, and I'm not getting the vitamin and mineral capsules. So the next morning, I ran out to the barn and I filled my pockets with the vitamin and mineral capsules that we were giving the milk cows and the chickens and things like that, and the rabbits. And I threw my Cheerios out into the yard where the chickens started eating them, and I started taking all these pills and tablets and capsules. And that was it. And my juice, that was it. Well, in 3 days' time, I was cured. In 3 days' time, I was perfectly normal. Okay. And today, people will still, they'll get put on 5 different tranquilizers. They'll be seeing psychiatrists once a week. They'll get put into mental homes when they are really, really severely advanced like I was. And so that's where I started. That was my wake-up call that there was things that human beings were not getting that we needed to have a normal life. Well, what I'm going to do here is give you a couple of my big stories on this 2 CD set coming out next week. Okay, the Wallach Corpus, named after the Hippocratic Corpus, after Hippocrates. Of course, everybody knows one of the 60 in his corpus, which was the Hippocratic Oath, which all doctors have to take, and so forth. So, at any rate, when I graduated from the University of Missouri, and I had my degree in agriculture, I had my degree in veterinary medicine. I was 2 years into my degree in pathology. And I was going to Iowa State University to finish up my last 2 years of my degree in pathology. And 1 year into that, Marlon Perkins from the old Mutual Omaha Wild Kingdom show, I had worked for him in the petting zoos during the summer times. And he knew me and where I was coming from, because of, my story was told everywhere in Missouri. And so he says, look, Wallach, I need you to go to Africa and work on a project for me. When it's done, I'll bring you back. And if you want to finish your pathology degree, I'll get you back, into the graduate school. I said, okay, you're on. You can't refuse Marlon Perkins. So I went to Central Africa, okay, with the white rhino conservation project. And I caught 200 white rhino in 2 years and sending them back here to save them. There was only 470 left. And I caught about half of them and sent them here. And he sends me another letter in Africa. He says, okay, Wallach, you're going to have to leave the Umfolozi and Shlishlui game reserves and come back to the States, because I just got a $25 million grant using your first scientific paper you wrote in 1991, when you figured out why 500 turkeys died in one night, chickens and turkeys died in one night in Missouri. How'd that happen? Okay, well, they died because they all froze to death. Okay, and they were actually sheep, is what they were. They were 6 and 9 month old sheep. Okay, and I've got 50 of them put in my lap when I was still a pathology student, and they had goiter, and they all died from hypothermia when this cold wave came through. 500 died in one night, and nobody else could figure it out. And when I cut the first one open, the blood came out, looked like chocolate milk, which is methemoglobin, is caused by nitrate poisoning. Then when I finished the autopsy on the first one, had goiter, instead of the thyroid glands being the size of a almond, it was the size of a plum. I said, oh, they had goiter that's also caused by a nitrate poisoning. So I figured out that they're getting runoff from the next door neighbors fertilizing his gardens and fields, ran into their water supply, and they all got goiter, and they all died of hypothermia as a result. So at any rate, I got it published and gave him a copy. I was very excited. I'm only 21 years old, and had my first scientific paper in 3 scientific journals. It was very exciting. And so then again, that's when he had me come back, because he used that paper to get that $25 million grant from the National Institutes of Health to use the zoos in the big cities around the world as the canary in the mine. Because back at that time in the mid-60s, 1960s, everybody knew the Earth was going to end in 2 weeks from pollution. And so he was going to, so we're going to use the zoo animals, all these different species of zoo animals. There's bound to be one that was sensitive to the same pollutants we were. So to make a long story short, I began to do the autopsies on all these animals. And over a 10-year period, I had done 20,000 autopsies, 454 species of animals, and 3,000 humans from the Barnes Hospital there in St. Louis. And none of them had died from pollution or nitrate poisoning or anything like that. But they all had died from all these other things that were caused by nutritional deficiencies. And I got it written up and so forth. And so it was kind of very exciting. He used that to get that grant. Okay, so at any rate, now comes, he sent me to Africa again. And I came back after just, 6 months there, but I came back and I began to give lectures all over the world on these subjects. And I ran into, when I first came back, and all the bears and all the zoos in every city in the world are dying of liver cancer. And the geneticists say, well, this has to be a genetic disease in bears. I'm saying, well, wait a minute, we're talking polar bears and grizzly bears and Kodiak bears and brown bears and black bears and sun bears. They're all dying of liver cancer. There's no genetic relationship between them. Okay, there's something else going on here. And so I began to read a little bit, and there is a fungus it's a bread mold, okay, called aspergillus. And people say, oh, it's penicillin, it's bread mold, right? It's what they call it, but it's not really penicillin. Okay, it's an aspergillus mold. And it produces a toxin called aflatoxin, which causes liver cancer. Well, the nice thing about aflatoxin is in the dark, if you put a UV light on it, it glows like a green light, a traffic light. It glows. I mean, it'll light up the whole room, okay? And so I said, okay, what do we feed these bears all over the world? He says, well, we give them old bread because, you know, a bear weighs 1,000 pounds and they can give them 3 loaves of old bread. They can get for a quarter a loaf and feed them a couple of fish. And so it's not very expensive to feed them. I said, well, there's your problem. Show me. I hadn't even unpacked yet. I said, take me to where you're storing all this old bread here in the St. Louis Zoo. So we go there, shut all the doors, take the UV light from the zoo hospital and turn it on. The whole room lights up, okay, in green lights. He said, what is that? And I said, well, that's the aflatoxin glowing. And so we have to get all the bears in the world on dog food instead of old bread and fish. And we did. And within 3 months' time, all the deaths from liver cancer in bears in the world stopped. I mean, just like you turned off a switch. And that was a big hoo-ha. Okay. So that was the beginning. I knew that I was going to be able to do some really very interesting and great things. Well, also, when I started working at the zoo, the big zoos that had aquariums and they were dealing with whales and dolphins and porpoises, and they would have porpoise shows and porpoises dancing and all that kind of stuff. But they're all dying. All the porpoises and whales in the zoos are dying from congestive heart failure, you know, a common disease in humans. I said, well, what are you feeding them? Well, we're feeding them, you know, fish. That's what they eat. We give them all these little raw fish, whole fish. They get the whole fish. I said, well, that may be your problem because when you feed whole fish to an animal, there's a enzyme in the intestines and the liver, okay, it's called thymidase, which destroys the B vitamin thiamine, and thiamine deficiency causes congestive heart failure. So we looked around, and sure enough, all these zoos are feeding these dolphins, instead of feeding them a commercial, kind of like a pancake kind of thing, it was made with plenty of thiamine in it and no thymidase. So we got them off all the fish and got them or we gutted the fish and put multiple vitamins and minerals in the fish and gave it to them. We stopped all the whales and dolphins and porpoises dying of congestive heart failure. That was another big one. Okay. Well, along comes a problem. Let's see here. Let's look at another one. Okay. Let's look at a guy who his name was Ray McGregor. And Ray McGregor was from let's see here. He was from the East Coast, okay, and he actually had what they called Alzheimer's disease, and for 3 years they were treating him for Alzheimer's disease with pharmaceuticals. And he goes into this coma, and for 8 years he's in this coma, and they're just feeding him through a G tube. They're just giving him Ensure, you know, this little canned diet thing, twice or 3 times a day Ensure, and giving him IV saline so he could have hydration for 8 years. And after 8 years, he's about 0 brain waves. They're going to pull the plug on him. He's going to die. And his sister calls me up and says, is there any way you can save him? I said, well, I think so. Okay. So I said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going, and remember, I'm in St. Louis and Ray McGregor is on the East Coast. And so he said, what I want you to do, and she's right there, I said, what I want you to do is give him 3 meals a day through his G tube. I want you to use our shake, our protein shake, but I want you to make it with heavy cream instead of water, in case it is Alzheimer's disease. I want you to make it with heavy cream instead of water. I want you to take our Healthy Brain and Heart Pack, a full dose at breakfast, lunch, and dinner with that shake. I want you to give him the Ultimate Daily Classic tablets, 3 of those with each meal, because they can get rid of a certain type of dementia, vascular dementia, where the blood vessels are clogged in the brain. And then I want you to give him the de-stress capsules, because that's another type of dementia. I want you to give him 3 of those with each meal. The Ultimate Niacin Plus, I want you to give him 1 of those with each meal. And I want you to give him 3 eggs with each meal with soft yolk, soft boiled, soft yolk, soft poached, soft yolk, soft scrambled butter, and put them in his shakes. And then call me every 2 weeks. So she calls me in 3 days, and she is wailing and screaming and crying. I said, oh my gosh, Ray must have died. I mean, she is just hysterical. I said, well, tell me, why are you so upset? What's happening with your brother Ray? She says, well, he woke up this morning and he didn't realize he was in a coma for 8 years. He gets stressed, goes back to work at the bank. When he went into the coma, he was an officer in this bank, and he goes back to the bank and goes back to work. just after 3 days, after 8 years of being in a coma. Okay, so that's another one.
That is dramatic. That's an incredible case. I mean,
Yeah.
That's
well, we do this thousands of times a year now because Ray McGregor was the key case, right? And that's a true story, as true as you can get. Okay, then there's another one in Canada. Okay, in Canada, this guy here, he was in his 60s and he was on dialysis for 25 years. Didn't want to get a kidney transplant, so he stayed on dialysis, kidney dialysis, for 25 years. The last 10 years, he hadn't urinated at all. Okay. And so he was about at the end of his stream here, and they called me and said, "Is there anything you can do for him?" I said, "Well, yeah, I think so. What I want you to do is he's got to get rid of all the bad foods, no fried foods, no processed meats, no oils, no gluten. I want to make his blood vessels happy." And then I gave him one healthy brain and heart pack twice a day because he weighed about 180 pounds. One healthy brain and heart pack twice a day. I gave him the Ultimate Daily Classic tablets, 3 of those twice a day. And then I also wanted him to have a sort of a anti-inflammatory. So we gave him our ultimate, let's see here. We gave him the Z radical. We gave him Z radical is what we gave him. Z radical, it's a liquid. We gave him so he could take it orally. But at any rate, after 2 weeks' time, he starts urinating after 10 years of not urinating. Okay. He starts urinating. But then, so they dropped down his dialysis from 6 days a week to 3 days a week. And in 4 more weeks, he's totally urinating, all his blood pressure, everything's normal, and he's off of dialysis. So
what was the main thing that helped him do that, do you think? What was the main
we had to get rid of the bad foods, which is causing the arteries to be blocked. Okay, which carry the dirty blood into the kidneys. Okay, and that's why they had to do dialysis, because his kidneys couldn't filter the dirty blood because they weren't getting the dirty blood because the arteries are blocked because he's eating fried foods and oils and cooking oils and all that kind of stuff. So we had to change all that and then give him the 90 essential nutrients plus all the things that would heal his arteries and get blood flowing through those arteries. And it only took 2 weeks to make the big change. Okay, it was like crazy. And so this is a very, very famous story, part of the Wallach Corpus. And let's see here. Let's talk about
how many stories do you have in the Wallace Corpus?
I think there are 12. There's like 6 on each CD. Right. Because I have thousands of them, and there's no way I can get them all on there. But I do have a book and a CD set called Epigenetics: The Death of the Genetic Theory of Disease Transmission. Okay. Right. Myself, along with Bruce Lipton, the two of us are considered the father of the science of epigenetics. Okay. Right. So between the book Epigenetics and the CD Epigenetics and the Wallach Corpus, there's 2 CDs coming up. This is going to change the world. And that's why I called it the Wallach Corpus. People say, "Well, you're kind of arrogant, aren't you, Wallach?" I said, well, there's only one other time in history when this has happened. And that's when Hippocrates came up with his 60 stories, the Hippocratic Oath and the Hippocratic, corpus. And so there's nothing else like it. Okay, you can check in any medical book, and you're not going to find anything like this. So we had to make it unique and so forth. And so every family should get the book and the CD, Epigenetics: The Death of the Genetic Theory of Disease Transmission. So nobody can say, "Oh, you got a genetic disease, just take your medicine and we'll control it." No. We can prevent them, we can get rid of them. And then
they can order it from Longevity, right? These products and books right here.
The products you get from Longevity, and they should really sign up with you. Okay. Right. Anybody who hears this live, they should contact you, and you should have your people know how to sign them up in Longevity and get them started. And
so call this number 888-275-7755. Say you've been watching New Realities. Say you saw Doc Wallach on this program, and if you want to get those products, you could sign up under me, Alan Steinberg.
Yeah, and you'll pay wholesale prices. You'll always pay wholesale prices. And let's see here. And if you get a couple of other people started and be their sponsor, you'll get a check every month, and your products will be free. I don't know how to make it any better than that. Okay. So yeah, I'd have him contact you, and that way you can actually help support the great projects you're doing with the checks I'm going to send you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, Doc. And Carolyn's been doing that. We'll hear from her later. But
okay, let me give you another one. Let me give you one or two more. You ever hear of Evander Holyfield? Evander Holyfield?
Yeah, he was a boxer, wasn't he?
Yeah, heavyweight boxer, and he'd been a champ for 8 years, heavyweight boxing champion. I mean, he was unbeatable for 8 years, and he winds up with coronary artery disease, and he had a heart attack, and it was a mess. And they said, "Well, your career's over. You got to surrender your championship. Okay, you can't keep it because you can't box and defend it anymore. So you have to surrender your championship." So he was forced by the boxing commission to surrender his championship. After about 3 or 4 months, some of his friends said, "Well, why don't we call this Wallach guy?" And so, at any rate, I talked to him and met with him in Detroit, and got him off all the bad foods, the fried foods, the processed meats, the oils, the glutens, wheat, butter, iron, oats, all the things that got him in trouble with his coronary arteries and his kidney arteries and his brain arteries, and got him training again. And 6 months later, he goes and challenges the then current heavyweight champion and beat him, knocked him out in the first round. And he boxed for 3 more years. He defended his championship 3 times a year for 3 years. And no heavyweight champion is going to have a heart attack and come back and win a championship and defend his title 3 times a year for 3 years. Okay. And so it was a great story, a great athlete.
Right. Wait, what made him so good? What was it that you're saying that really?
Well, I changed his diet, got him rid of all the bad things that were clogging his arteries, the fried foods, the processed meats, the oils, the glutens. Got to get rid of the stuff that are causing the problem. Okay. You can't fight a flood. You got to put up a dam somehow, right? And so then I gave him.
What give him all the energy to be, to make an athlete?
What gave him the energy was the blood flow to his heart. Okay. And so that's a great story.
That is. I didn't know you worked with heavyweight boxers. Yeah.
Oh yes, I dealt with a lot of boxers, welterweights, heavyweights, and so forth. Let's see here. Let's look at a couple more here. Let's look at Theo Ratliff, a basketball player, and I met him when he was 23 years old. Theo Ratliff. Okay. And Theo Ratliff was 23 years old, and he was playing for the, I think it was the Detroit Pistons. Okay. And both his knees, he had bone-to-bone arthritis in his knees, the cartilage pops off his hip, and he then has a big issue with his heart. Okay. Theo Ratliff. All right. Yeah, his knees, his hip, his wrist, and his brain and his heart. So to make a long story short, I got him off all the bad foods again, got him on all the good stuff. I mean, he lost his position, his job, and so forth. And to make a long story short, 3 months later, he got his position back, and they gave him a $35 million contract after I rebuilt him. Okay. And these are the sort of things I do. And this is why the Wallach Corpus is going to help so many people. The Hippocratic Corpus came out in the 5th and the 4th century, BC, before Christ. My Wallach Corpus is out in the 19th and 20th century, AD. And there you go.
Right. No, this is great. This is valuable information. And I think it's important that,
things that seem to be impossible. Yeah, things that seem impossible. Okay, there's no way. My doctor says I'm done, and I just have to take these drugs, and I could die tomorrow, but it's not good. Well, do you want to try something? Okay, and so this is how I learned all these things, and so now we're putting 12 of them, I think, or 6 in each of the 2 CDs. These great stories. I mean, these are huge stories. Okay. And millions of people will be saved if they listen to this 2 CD set, the Wallach Corpus.
This is good. This is really good stuff. No, this is great. So Are you publishing this book? What,
Okay, well, no, it's right. It's coming out as a CD, 2 CDs, because all the stories are in the book. Okay. Epigenetics, the death of genetic
Right.
disease transmission. So the stories are already published. All right.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
sometimes it's easier for somebody as they're driving or they're sitting, cooking or something like that. They can't read, but they can listen to a CD. So we're putting it in a different tool so they have access to it both ways.
Great. No, this is really good stuff. And I know, you've been doing this for what, 50, 60, you've been a nutritionist?
Well, I started when I was 9, okay? And right now I'm 80, so 72 years. Actually, I'm 81, 72 years.
That's a good career. So these are the best stories from 70. Do you start with your story as well? Is your
Yes,
story?
yes.
Right. So these are the best
When I
stories.
healed, when I healed myself when I was only 9 years old, and they're going to put me in an institution, okay, because I had all these terrible diseases and I was very dangerous and violent and so forth, and they were afraid I was going to cause set a fire someplace or something, burn down a house and kill people. And so they're going to institutionalize me so I couldn't hurt anybody. And when I realized what was going on there, I began to take these supplements. We were given our milk cows and the chickens and things, and I cured myself in 3 days of a problem I'd had for 5 years.
I know, incredible. Do you want to say some more? We have some questions also today, if you want to take a few questions. Or do you want to give us one more story that's really
okay. Let me give you one more story here. Let's see here. I'm trying to think. Do I want to give you a big story or a story of a little girl? I'm going to give you a story of a little girl. Okay, let's talk about Pastor Creflo Dollar, a great Christian pastor from Atlanta, Georgia. And one of my associates, one of my assistants and distributors for our longevity products, belonged to his church in Atlanta, Georgia. And he called me and said, you ever heard of Pastor Creflo Dollar? I said, yeah, when I'm on the road, I kind of watch his Sunday services. I like his services. Well, he's got a 12-year-old daughter who's supposed to die in the next couple of weeks. So she was born with a genetic form of asthma, and it's only gotten worse and worse and worse. Now she's having like 6, 8, 10, 12 attacks a day now. And it's a miracle that they're able to save her. But, she's 6 months away from her birthday, and they say she won't live to be for her 12th birthday. Is there anything you do for her? I say, I can reverse that. Okay. So I just talked to Pastor Dollar over the phone. Said, you got to change, everybody in the household has got to get it the same way. Otherwise she'll wake up in the middle of the night and sneak eat, So you have to get rid of all the bad foods in the house. No fried foods, no processed meats, no oils, no glutens, no wheat, brown, rye, oats, no sugar. And I want her to eat things like rice, okay, and baked sweet potatoes and eggs and things like that. Good for the brain. And then I want her, and also the lungs and her blood vessels, and I want her to take, the 90 essential nutrients. I gave her a little formula that they had to give her, in her juice. And I said, call me every 2 weeks. Well, they called me in 3 days, and Pastor Dollar said 2 words on the phone. He called me in 2 days. He said, she's cured. 2 words. Okay.
Wow.
And so, so today she has several children, beautiful children. And, she's in her, gosh, she's got to be 30 something years old now. And so these are the beautiful stories we have. Oh, saved her life.
That's amazing. You did.
Yeah. And of course, the beautiful thing about it is, we're going to give the good Lord, we're going to give God all the credit here. And Pastor Dollar knows this. And so he's, I should tell you, as a result of healing his daughter, he says to me, okay, Wallach, tell me. Now, all the doctors were saying that she had a genetic problem. I said, yes.
Right.
Was it genetic? I said, no. He says, well, what about all these other genetic diseases Black people have? Because he's a Black pastor. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, people with kidney failure and high blood pressure and heart disease and all that kind of stuff, liver cirrhosis and Alzheimer's disease, they say they're sickle cell anemia. These are all genetic diseases of Black people. Right. I said, no, sir, none of them are genetic. They're all nutritional deficiencies. Okay.
Right.
So he says, put it into a book. So I put it into the book, and he publishes the first 30,000 copies. He pays for the publication of it. And he had me speak at his church, and the CD is by the same title, Black Gene Lies, We have all the diseases said to be genetic in the Black community that are not. Tells you how to prevent them, how to cure them in the book and in the CD.
Yeah.
Every Black kid in the world needs to read the book and get the CD. They should be giving it to them as a birthday present when they're born. The mother and father need to get.
But beyond Black, there are no genetically transmitted diseases, is your thesis. So
In
right?
any vertebrate, that is correct. Whether you're Black or white or yellow or red, any vertebrate, you know, whether you're an elephant or a kangaroo. Okay.
So okay, so it's all just a lie. And when doctors say it's genetically transmitted, it means they don't know what's really causing it, right?
You got it correct. You got it. When they say this is a genetic thing, that translates to I have no earthly idea what you got. I'm just going to treat the symptoms, so get used to it. Okay. So when they say it's a genetic thing, flee.
Right. No, I get that. Well, no, this is such a good overview. When that subtitle, Slave Quarter Cures, that of that book, what does that mean, the slave? Because
Okay, now.
That. Yeah.
Okay, now. Okay. Why we call it slave quarter cures? Who do you think lived longer back 300 years ago? The plantation owners or the slaves?
Right. Now,
the slaves live longer. The slaves live longer. Now, here's why they lived longer 300 years ago. The plantation owners were dying in their 40s and 50s. So there's one slave lived to be 115. He went through 3 generations of plantation owners. Why is that? Well, the plantation owners felt that they were kind of like royalty in the United States.
Right.
And so they wanted to be like royalty in Europe. And royalty in Europe, they had pictures of them, you know, with the big rib bones and eating the steaks and the chops and everything. Right. They never showed them eating other things. They just were famous for just eating meat. I mean, when you're rich, you get steaks and you just eat meat. And so all these plantation owners would just eat meat. And they would give the livers and the kidneys and the chicken's feet and the pig's feet. You've heard of Black people eating pig's feet and chicken feet and that kind of stuff. And they would get the cartilage and the ligaments and tendons and connective tissue and the bones, which they'd simmer on the stoves. And they'd eat the livers and they'd eat the heart and they'd eat the lungs. And they're getting all that stuff. And so they're getting all the minerals and they're putting the wood ashes from the gardens into their little gardens. They weren't putting the wood ashes into the plantation owners' gardens. So the slaves were getting all this. And so when they were calling somebody an Uncle Tom and an Uncle Remus and an Aunt Jemima, those were terms given to them because the plantation owners respected them. They couldn't call them sir because that was, you know, 115 years of age. You got to be respectful, right? But they couldn't call them sir because that belonged to royalty. And so they came up with these these names to give them when they got beyond 100. They gave them those names as a kind of reward. They're saying you're part of our family. Now we're going to call you uncle because you're 3 times older than my son who died 2 months ago.
I get it.
Okay. Okay. But that's a very good question. Yeah. Thank you for spotting that. Yeah. Slave quarter cures.
Yeah, no, I think that's important because, yeah, we all have to live more closer to the earth, closer to the, you know, less plastic foods, less all that stuff that has, you know, has no nutrition, no vitality.
Right. Well, Alan, right now, you know that our children will be the first generation of Americans that do not live as long as their parents. We're going backwards, okay? Because everything they're getting to eat is wrong.
Right.
Everything they're getting to eat is wrong. I'll give you one more great story here, which is in also this Wallach Corpus. I actually was able to cure and eliminate the disease muscular dystrophy. Okay. Right. Remember Jerry's kids?
Yeah.
And I gave the cure in 1991 to Jerry Lewis. Okay. Was it 1991? Yeah. No, I'm sorry. It was 1981. No, I take that back. It was 20.
No, I think it was in the 90s. Yeah. I think it was.
Okay. But anyway, no, I think it was 2017 or something like that. 2017. Anyway, I sent Jerry Lewis about 50 charts from these kids who had muscular dystrophy. All right. And I had cured them. Their doctors are saying, we don't know why, but they don't have muscular dystrophy anymore. You know, by getting them off all the bad foods, giving them the supplements. which we'd given to animals because animals had muscular dystrophy. They called it white muscle disease in animals. We learned how to prevent it in animals, how to cure it in animals. So I used that same cure from animals to give it to people, and it worked. Okay, got it published and so forth. And I sent, I think it was like 30 charts I sent to Jerry Lewis. I said, here's 30 families I've cured their kid. I want you to take it and give it. I don't want any money, royalties or anything. Just let's get it out to everybody. And so he runs and he takes it to the Muscular Dystrophy Association. And he's all excited about this. And he turns around to go leave and goes, and I'm going to the newspaper. This has got to go to the New York Times. They fired him right there and then. They fired Jerry Lewis because he brought him the cure for muscular dystrophy. Okay. And then 2 years later, he dies. And everybody said he died of a broken heart because they fired him and he couldn't work with the muscular dystrophy anymore. And then 5 years later, okay, they shut down the telethon because they couldn't raise a penny without Jerry Lewis in the telethon because he brought him the cure. I got rid of cystic fibrosis, which is another childhood disease said to be genetic, which is not. And then, let's see here.
I'm just looking on Wikipedia, and it does say that he died the year after his controversial departure from the telethon. It doesn't say what that controversy was on Wikipedia.
It was me. I gave him the cure, and they fired him.
Wow.
That was, yeah. Okay. All right.
Wow.
And then, okay. And then, of course, it's one thing after another, of course, was able to get rid of all these diseases that got all these kids, okay? And so we were able to get rid of, I don't know, more of these genetic diseases, all because of just giving them good nutrition and supplements and all that kind of stuff.
No, just correcting, Jerry Lewis died in 2017, but he did depart the telethon in 2011 over controversy.
2011, yeah. And that was because I gave him 30 charts of kids I had cured of muscular dystrophy, okay? And you ever heard of sudden death syndrome? That's another one I've gotten rid of, sudden death syndrome. It was said to be caused by the mothers laying on the baby, but only 2% of the babies who died of SID were in beds with their mother when they died. So the other 98% didn't get laid on. They didn't. And they said, oh, they suffocated in their blankets. Then I redid some of the autopsies and they didn't suffocate. They died of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy heart disease, which I've done 1,700 autopsies on kids under the age of 10 that had that one death. Okay, 1,700 autopsies on kids under the age of 10 who died of cardiomyopathy heart disease. And began to give these kids who were in beds and so forth. And suddenly now, in the big headlines in the newspapers, let's see here, on the East Coast, they came out and said, big newspapers on the East Coast, the Charlotte Observer in Charlotte, North Carolina was one of the first ones. Said, we don't know why, but sudden death syndrome has vanished in the state of North Carolina because I forced them, okay, in a federal court to put these nutrients in the baby formulas. So I eliminated sudden death syndrome, okay?
Well,
and then
that should be a book. All the people, I mean, I guess that's what this book is in a way, but the book of how much but epigenetics, but also the stories of how you've saved people's lives. I guess what this,
it's called, the Wallach Corpus, okay? Okay, and so that'll be the quick introduction, and then you get all the details in the book Epigenetics, okay, the Wallach Corpus.
Right.
I mean, how many people eliminate 3 major childhood diseases and save millions of kids every year just by putting a supplement in their baby formula? They only had 3 minerals in there. Now they have a minimum of 12. Some have 25, but they have a minimum of 12, including the ones that I forced them through federal courts to put in there by a federal judgment. I think it was, let's see, it was 2016, okay, 2016, and they forced the federal courts and NIH and CDC forced the baby food manufacturers to put these nutrients into the baby formulas, Enfamil, Similac, and it immediately ended sudden death syndrome.
Right. No, well, this is great. Let's take some questions from Caroline because she's been waiting patiently and she has some really valuable information. Of course, Carolyn deals with the public. She's one of the people you get if you call the Vital Health News hotline, and she will direct people to the appropriate products. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, she should be signing people up and getting them into the system so they can get the wholesale prices and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Is that what you do, Carolyn, sometimes?
Yeah. Yes, I am on the call team, and so I'm available 24/7.
Thank you so
Great.
very much.
Great.
It's my pleasure.
Okay.
Actually, it makes my heart sing. So
Aw.
it does. I'm not kidding you. So
Well, it makes my heart sing too.
Well,
now,
what do you have for Doc today?
okay, so were there any other recommendations for the 8 dementias? I know you covered Alzheimer's with Ray McGregor. Were there any others for the rest of the 8 dementias?
Oh yeah, I put all the nutrients in there for all the other 8 dementias because I
thought
wasn't
that.
sure their I wasn't sure their diagnosis, so I covered all 8, including
love it.
vascular dementia. Okay, vascular dementia where the arteries in the brain are clogged. Okay, that's why I gave so many different things. Okay, to cover all the bases because I could never trust their diagnoses, and that's why it all went away because I covered all of them.
Okay, quickly, what do you have for shingles?
A roofer.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Now shingles is a viral shingles is a viral issue, and of course, it is contagious. And so people need to be very good about their hygiene and washing and all this kind of stuff. And wouldn't hurt for them to wear gloves when they're out at work and shaking hands with people. Wear throwaway surgical gloves, kind of things. And then they need to take the 90 essential nutrients, support the immune system. I take, our biggest hammer in the toolbox is the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack, which we go into in these in the Wallach Corpus. It's called the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack. And then we throw in some of these things that actually super support the immune system. Okay. Cell Shield RTQ, 3 of those twice a day per 100 pounds of body weight. And then we also have Pollen Burst, which has SOD, superoxide dismutase in it, which supports the immune system, so your own immune system can control and kill the virus. And then, of course, we have hand sanitizers, which you can use on any kind of thing. I use it 6 times a day because I'm out dealing with people. I use our hand sanitizers. But if somebody has warts are caused by viruses, so you can put our hand sanitizer in there. It'll kill the warts, and the warts will go away. You don't need to go to a dermatologist. Same way with anything that's like blisters and so forth. You go ahead and take and support your immune system from the inside, and then you kill the viruses by contact with a cotton ball with our hand sanitizer on it. You could do it every hour, wet those little blisters, and it all goes away.
Great. The next one is a 63-year-old woman, 120 pounds, and she has years of an ulcer on her ankle. She has big trouble swallowing, runny nose, and she was told that her bones are dying by her doctor. And circulation.
Okay, she's how old? She's
63 and 120.
Yeah, okay, well, she has osteoporosis, okay? She probably got osteoporosis of the skull, why she has all these things going on in her head, and her saliva and hearing, and she probably has ringing in the ears and balance problems. She may have had Bell's palsy and trigeminal neuralgia, and she's losing her sense of smell, and all these things, okay? And so she needs to get rid of all the bad foods, and no fried foods, no processed meats, no oils, no gluten, no wheat, butter, no sugar, and then 1 Healthy Brain and Heart Pack because she only weighs 120 pounds or something like that.
Yes.
And so I'd have her take another bottle of our selenium, because it has 5 other cofactors added to it. You can't just run to Walgreens and get some selenium because it's $3 cheaper. Okay, we have 5 other cofactors in there that are necessary to get the maximum benefit. And then she needs our vitamin D3, 3 of those twice a day. She needs our MSM to regrow bone matrix and tendons and ligaments and connective tissue. We take people who have the most horrible advanced osteoporosis, and they're just take a step and they fracture their leg, right? And in 90 days it's all healed. They have bones like a 16-year-old.
Awesome. The next person, this is a, let's see, where is that person? Okay, this gentleman is 160 pounds, 65, and he was told he has large blood cells, large red blood cells. He does have some osteoporosis of the skull. He has vision loss that was diagnosed as macular, and foot
Okay.
fungus.
Let's go with that. If he's got osteoporosis of the skull, he probably has vision loss from ONA, optic nerve atrophy, because the skull is squeezing that nerve. Okay, probably doesn't have macular degeneration. Okay, and he weighs 160 pounds.
Yes.
Yeah, and let's see here. In addition to the loss of the sense of smell and the vision issue, he had some large red blood cells. This is a vitamin B12 deficiency. It's a vitamin B12 deficiency, and so I'd have him take, again, 2 of our Healthy Brain and Heart packs per month, 2 Healthy Brain and Heart packs per month, a full dose of everything twice a day. He needs our Ultimate Daily Classic tablets. I want him to take 3 of those 3 times a day. That's 3 bottles a month. And that will help with the red blood cells getting through the blood vessels, okay, because it'll dilate the blood vessels and relieve any plaque or anything he's got in there. And again, I want him to have the MSM so he can, again, it'll help him rebuild his skull and all the osteoporosis and all his bones and everything. Vitamin D3, 3 of those twice a day. That'll also help his bone marrow make healthy red blood cells. And there you go.
Sounds great. Now I have this 31-year-old lady, 115 pounds, and she's infertile. She has polycystic ovarian syndrome. She also has diabetes, some thyroid issues, and she has had several miscarriages, and of course they want to get pregnant.
Okay, well, here's a very classic example of somebody who has a gluten problem. The reason why she's having all the miscarriages and she has all these personal health issues is because they're all nutritional deficiencies.
Right.
Okay, her villi and her intestines are gone, so her efficiency of absorption is probably 2% or 3%. She's getting enough calories to stay alive, but she doesn't have enough nutrients to make hormones and all that kind of stuff, right? So she needs to get rid of all the bad stuff: no fried foods, no processed meats, no oils, no glutens, no wheat, butter, iron, no sugar. I'd also have her take, and you said she weighs 130 pounds?
Yes.
Okay, I'd have her take 1 Healthy Brain and Heart pack per month, get another bottle of our selenium, so she can take 3 selenium twice a day. I also want her to take the MSM, so she can take 3 of those twice a day. That's 1 bottle a month to, build all her bones in her skull and all that kind of stuff. And I want her to eat 3 eggs 3 times a day, because the fat in the eggs, is required to make hormones. Okay. And so for her to make estrogen and progesterone and all that kind of stuff. And of course, she also has a thyroid problem. So I also want her to get 2 bottles a month of our Ocean's Gold, so she can take 3 of those twice a day. And she also has to stay away from cruciferous vegetables because of the thyroid issue. No cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and kale. That's in addition to all the other restrictions she's got. Okay. And I think that'll take care of everything. Do not try for a pregnancy for 6 months. Okay. Wait until your body heals and everything's working good. I mean, I take women, who had so many miscarriages and all this, that, and the other, and they get on this program. And then, after 4, 5, 6 months, it's okay, Wallach, I might even want to get a hair analysis and make sure all the minerals are right and everything like that. After 6 months on this program, make sure it's all right. She may want to take it now to see if she needs any other specific nutrients. But certainly, before she tries to get pregnant, she should do a hair analysis and make sure all the minerals are getting into her tissues, and it will show up in the hair. Okay, so I would recommend a hair analysis after, say, 4 to 6 months on the diet and the supplement program. And her thyroid will be working, her pituitary will be working, her ovaries will be working. Okay, and we have a product called Woman's FX. She could take 3 of those twice a day, Woman's FX. Okay, and let's go with that.
That's excellent. Right. I like how comprehensive you are. The next gentleman is 85. He weighs 185, and he has trouble with his liver and this amyloidosis protein, also heart issues, and bone and joint issues.
Okay, and he's 180 pounds, right?
Yes.
And so I want to get rid of all the bad foods, fried foods, processed meats, oils, glutens, wheat, butter, rye oats, and sugar. And then I want him to have 2 healthy brain and heart packs per month. That's our biggest hammer in the toolbox. Take a full dose of everything twice a day. Then I want him to get 2 bottles of our MSM so he could take 3 with each meal, okay, to rebuild his bones and all that kind of stuff, okay? And then I also want him to have, he has cardiac issues. I want him to take the Ultimate Daily Classic tablets. I want him to take 3 of those with each meal. That's 3 bottles a month. That'll support healthy blood flow through the coronary arteries, the brain arteries, and also in the liver. And then the nutrients in the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack is especially designed for the liver. It really should be called the Healthy Brain and Heart and Liver and Kidney Pack because it deals with all those. But it was too clumsy, so we just cut it back to Healthy Brain and Heart Pack. But the liver has an enormous capacity to heal. I take people who have had more problems with their liver, because they have amyloid in their liver and their bones and everything. Well, this is where that MSM is going to help, but also all these nutrients in the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack. And by getting rid of all the bad foods, the fried foods, the processed meats, oils, glutens, wheat, butter, rye oats, and sugar, he's going to be able to absorb these nutrients. And it wouldn't hurt for him also to get a hair analysis before or when he starts all this stuff. And then 3 months later, he's going to be a new man in 3 months. You should get another hair analysis to compare him and say, oh my gosh, it's a miracle I was alive because all my nutrients were below the bottom line. They weren't even showing. And now they're in the normal zone. Okay. And so that just gives you confidence that you're doing all the right stuff. And there was a reason why we're having all those problems. It's not genetics.
Excellent. And the last one is a 90-year-old lady who weighs 110 pounds. She has been having many strokes, arthritis, swallowing difficulty, and that pretty much covers it.
Okay, well, swallowing difficulties can go along with osteoporosis of the skull, squeezing the 9th cranial nerve, the glossopharyngeal nerve, so her glottis and that sort of stuff doesn't work very well because that nerve is being squeezed. 90 years old, osteoporosis, arthritis. Did she say anything about high blood pressure or diabetes?
She is not. There isn't
Okay.
any. I asked about that.
Okay, good girl. Thank you. Okay, and you say she weighs 110 pounds?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd give her, get rid of all the bad foods. I give her 1 Healthy Brain and Heart Pack per month. I get her another bottle of Slim, so she could take 6 a day, 2 with each meal. Okay, that's going to cover a lot of territory. I want her to get 1 bottle of MSM to go along with that, so she can take 6 a day, 2 with each meal, or 3 twice a day, whichever is easier for her. I need her to take vitamin D3, 3 of those twice a day. I want her also to take the collagen. We have the liquid glucogel. It may be easier for her to take an ounce of the liquid twice a day, so 2 parts a month of the liquid glucogel. And let's see here. I need her to eat 3 eggs twice a day with soft yolks, soft boiled, soft poached, soft scrambled in butter. And then she's going to be a new woman because when people get that age, they're listening to their doctor's saying, okay, no butter. You want to use oils, which is just the wrong thing to say. Okay. She got osteoporosis of the skull causing the swallowing difficulty. And I bet you her voice has changed too. So she doesn't sound like she did when she was 60 years old. And that's why people that are 90 years old, they sound like they're 90 years old because the vocal cords are being, the nerve to the vocal cords, the 9th cranial nerve.
Oh, you
is being
never said
squeezed.
that before. You never said that before, Doc. But that's what happens with older people when they're with the osteoporosis of the skull is in their vocal cords.
Yeah, we actually have another new book out here. It's all in your head. We go into 25 different diseases you get from osteoporosis of the skull, which you can get rid of in 3 to 6 months. And they're not genetic. They're not diseases of old ages. They're diseases of nutritional deficiencies. And they're everything from deafness, ringing in the ears, dizziness, loss of the sense of taste and smell. People lose their vision. They also have swallowing difficulties. They will actually get a squeezing of their spinal cord as the spinal cord comes out of the brain where it's formed out through the back of the skull. The skull will squeeze that and cause paralysis called Erb's paralysis, ERB apostrophe S paralysis in their arms. Okay. And they might even be diagnosed with carpal tunnel syndrome and that kind of stuff, which really just osteoporosis of the skull. And so you get them off all the bad foods, you get them on everything that we say is laid out in here, what to do for osteoporosis of the skull, and get rid of these 25 different diseases, and say sayonara to your doctors.
This is great. Doc, you are a national treasure. I know you have
You're too kind.
No, it's true. You've helped so many people. Your company's helped so many people. This is radical wisdom that you're not going to hear from your doctor. So thanks so much for coming on the show every other week.
Well, thank you, Alan. Okay, Alan, that's why we call it the Wallach Corpus, because I think it's probably in the same league as the Hippocratic Corpus. Okay.
Yeah. No, I think it's really important to share this knowledge, and you're not just sharing it, you're giving people solutions. So again, if anyone wants to find out about anything Doc has talked about, you can go to this number, call them 888-275-7755. And Carolyn, you've been on the phone there. What kind of questions do you get, and what kind of answers do you give people?
Well, I make Doc's recommendations. Now, for this last one, for the 90-year-old lady, I had also recommended the brand new collagen peptides for the bones and joints, because when I spoke to her husband, he said he has to feed her by spoon. So we were talking about the spray D3. We were talking about less things that he had to crush for her, and as many things as we could get liquid. He asked about opening the selenium capsules. I said, yes, you can open those, and till we build up that swallowing of her.
Well, thank you. You're an angel of God, and we love you for all the good stuff you do. God bless you.
Well, thank you, Doc. Thank you. We're going to do this again in about 2 weeks. We're going to get the latest research from Doc. This is one of them. This Wallach Corpus. Where can people find the Wallach Corpus?
They can, ask your angel here, okay, because she'll be able to get it. Okay. It'll be actually shipped out of the Wellness Publications. And of course, if you buy 10, you get a discount. If you buy 50, you get a really big discount on the set. And so you can actually make $1 or $2 yourself, as you sell them to people, or you give them to your family as gifts. People you love, your pastor, your rabbi, whoever you're going to give it to, right? And this is going to make a dramatic difference in how people live all over the world. It's kind of like 1,000 years ago when they would discover something new. Right now, the Wallach's Corpus is that discovery.
Yeah, no, I think it's very valuable.
And Doc, what I like to do is I like to pre-order so that I get mine first. So I pre-ordered the last couple of things.
Oh, there you go. God bless you. Then you can tell people, hey, it worked for me.
Yes, yes.
Well, we've been talking to Doc Wallach, joined by Carolyn Clancy. Thank you, Doc, for 72 years of deep personal research into nutrition and health and healing and transformation. I'm going to sign off here with a view of the number. This is Alan Steinfeld for New Realities, talking to Doc Wallach. Join us again in about 2 weeks. I'm signing off. Thank you, Doc. See you soon. Thank you, Carolyn.